When I started on the film, Jim, of course, had his original concepts of the weapons. Then we got Sid Mead and Ron Cobb on board, and they were doing their conceptual ideas for the guns. My initial thought was that what we wanted to do was find some of the most reliable blank firing weapons we could and construct the futuristic look over the top of those. And we looked for guns that would fire blanks, that would give us the best flash, the best rate of fire, the most power, I suppose.
This is the pulse gun. What we've done is we've taken a Thompson machine gun, a military version, and underneath we've mounted the pump-action shotgun, which is here. I think this was the hardest thing to mount, because what we've done is we've taken a pump-action shotgun and cut it down to about 15 inches and mounted it under the barrel. It now fires 3 shots instead of its original 5. This is the grenade that the shotgun fires. This is a high explosive grenade. It can also act as a hand grenade. By pressing the button twice, you activate it. It's a snap cap out of a 12-bore shotgun with a few cuts in it and the press button on top. The handgun, this is a Heckler & Koch VP70. It's not made anymore, but it looks very futuristic enough to use for the film.
The smart guns we modelled on an MG42 German machine gun. They were quite adaptable in terms of hiding the magazine within a new sort of conceptual shape for the gun.
What we've done is mounted it on a Steadicam harness, which is basically used for cameras. The gun itself, we've tried to disguise it. We've mixed it up with 250 Kawasaki motorcycle parts. Here you have the indicator unit. Here you have the back supports for the pillion rider. And at the back here, you have a clutch cable, which is linked to the trigger mechanism. I thought what was going to happen is that the harness was going to take the energy out of the bolt coming back, and that we were going to get ejection problems, and the gun wasn't going to work. But we persevered and eventually got there.
And everything is very military, very macho, very strong, powerful. We've had to develop flamethrowers which look impressive when they fire, that are safe to be fired by Sigourney Weaver and the other actors safely, which is always a little tricky when you're in a confined set with all the artists and crew around.
There's stunts and action. This film has got both, but the action that runs through this film is the pace that people move at, the tension that they build up, the scuttling around of these weird sets. It's all movement and action, firing guns. I can put in explosions and blow-ups and get guys being blasted to pieces, but they need to maintain that level of intense action.
It's actually hard for me morally to justify being in a film with so many guns. I just find it very upsetting, and that's the biggest problem for me, is that reading the script, I had no idea how martial the atmosphere would be and how much emphasis that would have. I give money to anti-gun legislation, and I mean, I never even go to see movies about guns, especially killing people. I can't, I just think, I think it would be very difficult for an actor to do. You'd really have to sort of do a number on yourself,
I love shooting the guns. That's like the best part of my job.
I got really a sense of handling weapons when I did The Terminator, because I had that shotgun throughout, and I was always firing off weapons and working with the guns.
Oh, I've shot a few weapons in a couple of different situations, and I grew up in Texas. I shot a lot of shotguns and stuff like that.
I've never shot a gun before. I'm actually frightened of guns, Doesn't take any imagination for me to pretend that it's a real weapon.
I think you must approach people that they are afraid of weapons. And I mean, that is quite good, if people are afraid of them. And then you can slowly bring them back in and show them that it's not going to hurt them. I mean, it's just keeping calm, showing them that you are confident. And that builds confidence in them.
Here we go. And action.
It's hard, especially someone like Vasquez, who you've a sense of power. She loves guns, and she feels a real power with them. So you have to work it out that way. It's Vasquez using them, not Jeanette. The smart gun, it's really heavy. It's balanced, you know, so it sort of floats. But there's a lot of strain. It's the hours that you have to wear it that's very hard. Mark and I, the other actor who wears it, he's a foot taller than me and about 70 pounds heavier, so it's a little bit easier, but not much.
Well, you know, I suffer from the Vietnam syndrome. If you point a gun at me, I'm going to shove it down your throat. I'm sorry to say that. Sorry, gang, but that's the truth. If you point, so we had things where everyone's instinct is automatically to put their fingers on the trigger. Well, they stopped doing that on the set with me because I don't have it. I really don't have it. It's an instinct. That's the way I was trained. Thank you very much, America. That's how I was trained. If you put your finger on the trigger when you're talking or you're waving your weapon around, I'm going to jam it down your throat. I got to do that.
Okay, stand by for full rehearsal in the drive, please, before we start the rain. Ready? And action! Go! You do it! Michael?
At some points, we're using blanks. Blanks can hurt people. And so if everyone's aware of what it is that they're actually walking around with, I want each and every one of these people, which they have already done, they're starting to fall in love with their guns. I know it sounds very silly, but from a military point of view, it's correct.
Run it this time with the Steadicam, providing it's ready.
Okay, Paul, bring the pressure up.
Go and action.
Let's go! Move it on! Count 'em up!
It gets a little scary though when you're in a situation on a film crew and stuff, because you know, a lot of times he wants to shoot near the camera and stuff like that. So you worry about the crew and you worry about your other actors and stuff.
Paul Weston is great. He's the best stunt coordinator I've ever worked with. He's very funny too, you know. And if you say, gosh, I have a problem with this, he can help you rehearse it enough times so that it loses its sort of insecurity for you. You can just sort of get the job done,
Keep quiet back there, please. Shh. Fingers down. So, Derek, right. Stop the effect!
I don't think Ripley is a gun person at all. And I want to make sure that in those scenes, although I look like I'm handling it, I don't turn into a Marine. I'm not a soldier. I never want to be a soldier. The thing that scares me about the guns is that after you've been using them a couple of days, you go, oh, well, this is, you sort of get into it. And I think that's what happens to people with real guns. And I think Jim Cameron is very anti-gun too, in his own way, but I think he's fascinated by them in a way that I'm not. I don't like that feeling you get after you've shot off a few rounds of, I'm immortal, it's just garbage. There were moments on Aliens where I had to shoot stunt dummies who were dressed as aliens. I would have to shoot stunt men who were moving as aliens, and I always thought it was amazing. We'd rehearse it, of course, in detail, but then they kind of left it to me. I mean, I know there were blanks, but still, what if I'd flamed a real person? They trusted me completely. And I have to say that once you start shooting, you get to like, the target practice alone was, very
There's some very big accidents that have happened over the years that I've seen on sets, but it's just going to happen. I mean, when you get 100 people in a confined space, and something's being overlooked. I mean, if you're firing a flamethrower at plastic, decorations on the wall, set designs, they're going to burst into flame. There's no, what's the surprise?
Well, the APC, when they did the fire gag, we're falling back after the first, major attack where we just basically get decimated by the aliens, and we're falling back into the APC, and Drake's flamethrower shoots inside and catches on fire. And what they did, they set different parts of the set on fire, strategic parts. Some of the set was made out of plastic, and some of that started to burn. It caused a toxic gas. And I remember just really clearly Jeanette Goldstein saying, "I can't breathe," and I remember just this is such an actorly moment. But I thought, hey, that's a good improv. And the very next thing I remember is taking a breath, and there literally being no oxygen, just like, and then I realized, oh my God, she's not in character. She's suffocating like I am.
It was like Bill said, like somebody had sucked all the breath out of me, and I was like.
It's kind of like what you feel like when you hear about chemical weapons and so on and so forth, what it would be like. And you suck in, there's like nothing other than fire in your lungs.
Cut, they pulled us all out, they had to give us oxygen, they sent us to lunch. And I remember we came back to shoot the same shot after lunch, and the exact same thing happened. So I think they ended up taking the roof off the top of it so the flames and the smoke had somewhere to ventilate while we shot.
So I think they finally did it with a fire effect. But I'm sure they kept a lot of part of that take of us just sort of, until of course we rip off our gear and start screaming like sissies, running off.
The afternoon or maybe in the morning that we were filming in the APC, they were simulating the APC hurtling downward through orbit by just rocking it on a bunch of huge planks. And obviously somebody didn't put enough screws or something into the roof of it, and it literally just caved in. It grazed Sigourney, and I think it hit William Hope, who was playing Gorman. The fascinating thing was Al Matthews, Apone, and he had really been Green Beret. He went right to action. I mean, he barked orders. He took over. Get this, go that, get that, get out of here, move, move, move. It was mayhem for a second, but really a catastrophe averted because, somebody could have been killed. And if you got hit in the head with this thing, I mean, you'd have been dead. And, it was a scary moment.
I pride myself on having a really great safety record. I don't believe that any movie is worth a serious injury, and it's, after all, we're only making a movie. This isn't real life. And I tend to be incredibly cautious. People may say too cautious, but the armored personnel carrier was actually an aircraft towing vehicle that we outfitted with the metal cover to make it look like an armored personnel carrier. But it was a towing vehicle for 747s. You can imagine how powerful that is for a vehicle that small to pull a 747. And at one point, we had the cameras set up right in front of the wall of the power station. And we wanted the longest drive up possible so that we could, have the APC coming directly toward camera. And I remember, I think at the last minute, we decided, let's remotely operate these cameras. Let's, set them and get the cameramen out of the way. And it turned out that the brakes failed and took out the cameras, and thank God there were no camera people there.
There was another one too. We had another incident happened when the APC was near the, I don't know what you call it, the alien lair or something. The driver of it, I think, thought he had it in forward and really had it in reverse, hit the pedal, and he almost killed Biddle. Some guys got trapped up against a wall. I think Cameron was even back there. He had to get himself out of the way.
Nobody got hurt, thank God. There was nobody in between the wall and the machine, but it ends up being a kind of black comedy, because you watch everybody making excuses, and it becomes a $20,000 moment, It was all fun.